Well, hello and welcome. It's a Tuesday trade right here in Lagos, Nigeria. 9th of September already. Is the month running fast, or is it just me? But let's get to the top stories that set your agenda now. And I got to check on how your money performed yesterday in the stock market. We see the Osha index again about 30 basis points to settle at 139,394 points, lifting the year-to-date returns about 35.43%. The rally was driven largely by gains in Dangote Sugar, Zenith Bank, and NASCON, even as overall trading volume dipped nearly 48%. Sectoral performance was broadly positive, led by strong advances in insurance and consumer goods, while banking stocks that dragged the index. Top gainers included PZ, UPL, and Ila Lake. So we'll give you more updates later on Business Incorporated. That's for the trade at intraday. Let's get a check now on what's playing out with oil. We're seeing oil prices edge higher today as OPEC Plus announced a smaller than expected production hike. Brent crude rose about 51 cents to $66.53 per barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was trading at about $62 a barrel, up about 1.03%. So we're seeing big moves to start this week. That's for oil. Maybe we get a positive weekly gain. That's for the oil market at the end for Brent and WTI. We'll keep our eyes on that. To other stories now, the Nigeria-Vietnam Chamber of Commerce and Industry, they met virtually with the Federal Ministry of Youth Development to plan a landmark youth collaboration. Alongside the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, talks centered on youth enterprise, innovation, capacity building, with focus on strengthening young people's role in national development. The partnership will feature at the 2025 National Youth Conference and climax with the Nigeria-Vietnam Youth Forum later this year in Vietnam. All right, so Nigeria has been selected as the host country for the 2027 Intra-Africa Trade Fair. That's the IATF, with Lagos serving as the host city, a milestone marking the first time the continent's premier trade platform will be held in Nigeria. The announcement was made at the IATF 2025 in Algiers by former President Olusegun Obasanjo, who chairs the IATF Advisory Council, underscored the fair's role in advancing African economic integration. Previous editions of the IATF said to have generated over $120 billion in trade and investment deals. Today we'll engage with the Honorable Minister of Trade and Investment, Dr. Jumoke Oduwole. She's joining us right here in our Lagos studios. Great to have you, ma. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. It's great to be here.
Fantastic. So the last time I spoke to you, you were heading PEBEC, and now you have a completely different hat, at this point, but still, related to enabling business and, getting our exports up and maybe reducing some of those imports. I'd like to get your experience, so far. What's it been like before we get into the conversation?
Well, stepping away from the protection of the presidency, it's actually good to be able to be on the other side. I was tracking ministers, governors, National Assembly, agencies, and now I have the opportunity to push some of the needles, some of the reforms that we were proposing at the time. So it's been a 9-month journey, over 9 months actually, and very, very interesting. A lot has happened in a short time.
Right, a lot has really, happened, definitely. And, looking at hosting the IATF, some would say it feels like hosting a World Cup.
Yes.
At this point.
Yes, I said that. Yes.
You said that.
Yes.
Exactly. So break it down for us. What are the potential benefits, for Nigeria and Lagos? When you think about, hosting this kind of event, first thing you're wondering is, oh my goodness, traffic in Lagos. How are we going to handle all of that?
Okay. So let me start from, you asked about my appointment. November, I get into office, and this is one of the letters that came on my desk about a week after I was appointed. And I thought, no, this opportunity cannot go by. So this was the very first approval I got from Mr. President, so it has a special place in my heart. We then put together a bid in 10 days. And when you think about the bid and all you have to put together, you have to get approvals about waivers of taxes, you have to look at infrastructure, you have to think of where to host. So Mr. President for approving us to do this, and the Lagos State Governor for really owning the space, championing. The whole Lagos State team was phenomenal. All the commissioners we had to go through a due diligence exercise in February. The AfrExim team came in with their partners, AFCFTA, AU, coming together, but there are a whole slew of organizations that put together this event, and they were looking at everything. The number of hotels in Lagos, the infrastructure at the airports, the seaport infrastructure, number of hospital beds, interconnectivity, intermodal transportation. We took them on Lagos Rail. We took them all around. We toured extensively the National Theatre, our newly renovated Pride and Joy. We also told them that in 2027, we'll be celebrating 50 years of Festac. That's the Festac anniversary. Lagos being the melting pot of culture in Nigeria and Africa. It's a very, very, very intermingling of all manner of people, sights, sounds, foods, fabric, culture, everything you can think of, the home of Afrobeat, the home of Nollywood. And so we had a digital trade launch for them. We had a cultural dinner for them at J.K. Randall Center in Lagos. We put up a top-notch, and we won the bid. So it was announced in Algiers last Thursday. We were happy to receive the flag, which we'll be presenting to Mr. President and to the Lagos State Governor, what this means for the economy, for the entire Nigerian economy. Lagos, Nigeria, is the gateway between West Africa and Central Africa. Nigeria is the gateway. Also between Northern Africa and Southern Africa. This trade fair has been hosted 3 times in Northern Africa and once in South Africa, and has generated, you said the figures, over $100 billion in deals, and also they're expecting 30,000 visitors in Algiers this year. Because of our location, because of our demographic, we've looked at the land border and air connectivity. We are expecting about 50,000. We're planning for 50,000 visitors. So that means
almost 2x Algiers.
Yes.
Almost.
Yes. Because of our centrality,
right.
Because of the level of excitement, because of the trade routes that we have on the Nigerian corridor from northern Nigeria all the way to our eastern borders, our western borders, our sea connectivity. There's a lot going on for intra-African trade. And so we're excited for our MSMEs, we're excited for all the businesses. It's the first time it's coming to West Africa. The whole of West Africa is excited, and we're ready to showcase those goods. Nigeria always has the biggest contingent at this trade fair. And this trade fair is the largest in Africa. It's one of the largest in the world. And so we're also bringing in, we're digital trade champions. So we're leveraging our expertise in technology to bring something special to this trade fair so that it's in multiples. We're theming it the future of trade. So we're going AI, we're going digital. We're going for what we're known for.
Fantastic.
Nigeria just like explodes.
Right. And, definitely talking about explosion, would love to see the impact, on small businesses. I'm sure, some be watching at this point and wondering, wow, I sell this goods, I have this service, I would like to participate, and they might feel they don't have what it takes, to get in there. Talk to me about how you're planning to get small businesses to come on that fair and actually, make life-changing deals.
So every time this fair has held, Nigeria has actually taken and partnered with Subsidized for our MSMEs to go on this fair. We partnered with NASIMA, we partnered Nexim, Smedan, Bank of Industry, NEPC have all taken some of their small businesses, even if it's like a subsidy, sometimes being able to sponsor fully, businesses that have demonstrated ability to scale, ability to export. And to export, we, with AFCFTA, we launched our 5th year roadmap, our 5th year implementation. And what we're doing with AFCFTA is explaining to businesses from standards, from market access, from regulatory barriers, all the things they need to know. So there's a lot of training and advocacy going on. We're going to be on roadshows around the country to make sure that across the country, because this is a countrywide intervention, that agro-businesses, services businesses, light manufacturing businesses all know where their goods are needed. This work has already commenced. About 3 months ago, we launched an air cargo corridor with Uganda Air, flat rate for our MSMEs. We started with our women-led exporting businesses. And so we mapped out 13 countries in Southern and Eastern Africa where Nigerian goods are in demand. We also supported that with a trade intelligence tool. We know that Nigerian apparel is in high demand. We know that our light manufacturing, our cosmetics, shea butter, our wigs, a lot of feminine products are in demand. And so that market is open. Businesses that export handbags, that export clothes, that export shea butter cosmetics, that export Zobo, teas, different things like that.
And I guess that's why we saw the latest move there by the federal government suspending exports of shea nuts.
Yeah, so
at this time, you mentioned shea butter there.
Yes, when you get to shea nut, we want, we have some comparative advantages in Africa. Shea nut is only grown in about 21 African countries in the world. That's just it. And yet it's used in almost all cosmetics. It's used in chocolate. And so the opportunity to add value before exporting the raw shea nut is incremental. We had other countries already banning the export of shea nut. So we're working with the stakeholders to make sure that we don't just, put a blanket ban. We work on productivity, on production, on value addition, and then we can export from shea butter to finished products across the country and the world.
Right, and it's for 6 months. Definitely we're keeping eyes on, on that one, at this time and see how, the impact.
And it's cocoa also. All the policies speak to Mr. President's Nigeria First intervention, speak to domestic investors. We have a strong emphasis on that, supporting them in production, supporting them in competitiveness. So all that particular ecosystem and the value chain, how we want to increase value and keep first in country and then in sub-region, in region, and then in the world.
Right. And, talking about the fair, at this point, we want a fair where the goods are mostly made in Nigeria. We don't want to see imported goods being sold at that fair.
No. It's all about productivity. So Nigerian businesses, you should have seen the stands. I'm sure you've been seeing some of the videos of me touring the stands.
Right.
They're taking proudly Nigerian products. A lot of the things I just mentioned, the apparel, honey, different kinds of products that are made in Nigeria. They're packaged, well packaged, global standards, meet all the certification, and they're in high demand. In Algiers right now, we have a portal. We're drawing that trade intelligence. We took a QR code that every Nigerian exhibitor has on their desk. So whoever is buying that Nigerian product, we're collecting the data, aggregating it, so other businesses at home can also know that this market wants this product, and then they go for it. This is all in line with our Renewed Hope agenda. Item number 7, where this ministry sits, focuses on acceleration of non-oil exports. And so that's what this ministry is all about. That's the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment.
So talking about, after now, AFCFTA, in your view, how much improvement have we made, trading within that corridor as a country? Yeah,
so Nigeria, we started this in 2021. The agreement came into force. And so we did our 5th year. By the provisions of the agreement, every country is supposed to do a 5-year analysis and a report. We announced in January that we would do this when the Secretary General visited. We did it, and we took it to Algiers, our 5th year report. So we've chronicled what worked, what didn't, the areas that needed improvement with trade facilitation, the areas where we're doing very well with services, with exports of goods on some particular products. Like CBN announced, our exports to the rest of Africa increased 24% year-on-year, this Q1. And so we're working on the areas that need a lot more advocacy, a lot more explaining to businesses what it takes, supporting them. We're going to release a program in 2026 that speaks to training on market access and standards all across the country, all the local governments of the country. That's going to be one of our legacy projects for 2026.
All right, so let's look at some data now. Latest official snapshot of Nigeria's merchandise trade. We're seeing total trade there about 36 trillion. There was an increase about 6%. Exports about 20 trillion. Imports 15 trillion. So we're seeing a surplus, there. That's good. Top export partners: India, Netherlands, United States, France, Spain. Top import partners, and we're seeing China. That's leading there. And we've seen what's been playing out with tariffs in the global scene, so far. And I'm wondering, when you hear trade policies coming out of the U.S., do you roll your eyes and feel like, oh my God, this is working against our export plans, as a country. How are you seeing that?
No, I don't think so. So our trading with the U.S. is mainly an energy trading relationship. Our non-oil exports to the U.S., the leading ones are fertilizer, lead, urea, and that's not doing badly as well. That's a win-win situation. They want our urea, they want our fertilizer, and we're more than happy to export to the U.S. market. We have a good commercial investment partnership. We also do a lot with the U.S. on services, technology-led businesses, and so we have a good relationship there. So there's a lot of optics globally. What we will be watching is AGOA. The U.S. is having a domestic legislation review, which will be coming up later this month. And we're looking forward to hearing what the outcomes of that are. But just to say that our non-oil exports in particular have a vast array of markets. As is to, you've seen Mr. President in Brazil, you've seen the VP of Colombia visiting Nigeria. There's a lot of, just in Algiers, the Nigerian-Algerian Chamber of Commerce, we had a meeting in Algiers. There's actually a land route to trade Nigeria and Algeria bilateral trade. And so there's a lot to do with AFCFTA. There's a lot to do with ECOWAS. You saw the first West African Economic Summit hosted by Mr. President as chair of ECOWAS. And what to do, in that even the deal room, about $400 million of interest in transactions. Our job as FMITI and as a government really is to enable businesses to match them. We'll be in UNGA in a couple of weeks having a Nigeria Investment Day, just bringing leading investors, global investors, and matchmaking them with Nigerian businesses. This is a tight-knit meeting. It's a working meeting, really, and that's what it has to be about.
Right, and, looking at the borders, at this point, they have a way of either slowing trade or just, stopping trade, at this point. Looking at our borders now, how is your ministry, collaborating, with customs to make sure, trade is facilitated and not expensive, when it comes into the country, boosting up inflation?
Really, I'll be honest with you, it's the best it's ever been. We're really blessed to have a Comptroller General of Customs that is really reform-minded. He's very, very clued into the trade facilitation agenda. So all his work is galvanized towards supporting trade. We collaborate very, very closely and very, very frequently. We were in Algiers together. He is hosting all heads of customs across Nigeria, across Africa, in Abuja, Nigeria, from the 17th to 19th of November. And that is to really distill into the agreement is there, the trade facilitation laws and regulations are there, but how do customs officials make it work? Mr. President gave matching orders. Nigeria has to have a working single window, which is a technology, a portal solution that facilitates trade. That work has been ongoing, and we expect by Q1 to have the first phase of the pilot agencies running on a national single window. Now, these are digital public infrastructure that support and enable trade. This administration has been leading on that. That's why we're digital trade champions under AFCFTA. We continue to look at opportunities where we can foster collaboration. And so you even saw us together in Benin Republic speaking with President Talon was here with President Tinubu on the administration. They agreed together that they wanted the relationship between Nigeria and Benin Republic, which is a very symbiotic one, to work effectively. And so President Tinubu was there in 2023, and President Talon was here about 2 months ago for the West African Economic Summit. So we went on a delegation I led to Benin Republic, speaking on how we would stop as an administration the smuggling. So both administrations, G2G, have seen the trade facilitation, how we would make that work. So those are the kinds of, whether it's bilateral relationships, or whether it's with the UAE, Brazil, whether it's closer to home like our neighbors next door, or whether it's regional arrangements or multilateral, we make sure that in every situation we're looking at market access, we're looking at standards, we're looking at access to capital, we're looking at G2G supporting deal rooms and de-risking transactions. That's what this administration is prioritizing, having successfully stabilized the economy. It's now time for growth. We said at the beginning of the year that 2025 is an inflection point, and we're beginning to see that materialize, whether it's from our ratings, whether it's from the figures you were quoting, the statistics and the improvement in our trade. statistics, and the best is yet to come.
Right, and talking about the best, yet to come at this point, I'm just imagining, okay, it's time, and we're now hosting, the trade fair, the IATF, right here, in Lagos, Nigeria, and we're done. How do we measure, the benefits going forward?
Okay, we're going to test it. So what IATF does is that every year, the preceding year, you host a conference called CANEX. Now, CANEX will be held in Lagos in Q4 of 2026, November of 2026. And CANEX is a cultural sort of festival, call it a mini Festac. And it brings together art, culture, entertainment, food, name it. We'll be hosting CANEX. Now, let me just let you know what that would mean. Wizkid was the closing act for the conference on CANEX in Addis, in Algiers. And I said to him, this conference is coming next to Lagos, Nigeria. And he said, that is home. So you can imagine the expectation. All Afrobeat, Nollywood, Funke Akindele, we flew together. She was also in Algiers for CANEX. They are all our ambassadors. They're the ones going to, the crowd that Lagos is going to pull. Everybody that hears that Lagos is hosting CANEX and IATF, the excitement is palpable. It's an exciting city. People want to come here. People love to shop Nigerian. People love, whether it's from our food, from our fashion, our services, entertainment. Do you know that people have fake Nigerian weddings as themes internationally?
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yes. So whether it's from Ashoebi to everything, we have a lot. It's really Nigeria to the world. And you're going to see the multiplier effect.
Definitely. Looking forward to
I should say also that everything that anyone may think is a challenge is actually an opportunity. If anyone thinks traffic may be a challenge, this may be time to acquire some Uber and Bolt vehicles, because you're going to make money. If you think, oh, where will we have all the hotel rooms? This will be an opportunity to scale up. This will be an opportunity to even plan that your apartment is an Airbnb. And then you take a vacation and leave that space. That's what people do in Davos. In Davos, nobody that lives in Davos is there during Davos week. They rent out their apartments, they make some good money. In a week, you can make money that can keep you for a year. So everything, food, restaurants, nightclubs, beaches, Lagos, and Nigeria. Every governor is plugged in. Every state is going to showcase. All the products we have are going to be highlighted and exhibited to the world.
Fantastic. So you got business advice right there from the Honorable Minister for IATF. Just leave your homes and rent it out for people, and you can make money, from that, and go out there and put your business right there on the map. Thank you so much. It was great having you, Honorable Minister Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment.
Thank you.
Thanks
for coming on today. Thank you.
Agriculture remains one of Africa's most powerful engines for growth, but unlocking its full potential requires more than just growing crops. It means adding value, building resilient supply chains, and ensuring farmers and communities truly benefit. Across the continent, we're seeing a shift towards local processing, global investment partnerships, and innovative agribusiness models that are changing the way Africa participates in global markets. Let's explore the opportunities and challenges at the intersection of agribusiness, investment, and community impact. Joining us now, however, Benny Francis, a co-founder, Horizon Group, joining me via Zoom from India. Great to have you on the show. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So tell me, what does attracting international investment mean, for the growth of agribusiness in Africa? We're seeing a lot of changes, happening when it comes to agriculture in Africa. We're seeing challenges. We're also seeing a lot of solutions at the forefront, but we want to see investment. How are you seeing that?
Especially in Nigeria, there are a lot of potential for having spice crops to be grown because of the agroclimatic conditions. We started in 2016, 2017, started processing spices there, namely ginger, turmeric, and hibiscus. At present, we are doing only drying and then packing and exporting to the destination countries. But now, since we have received funding from Avishkar, a major funding company in Africa, we are actually starting the processing also, like further processing into downstream processing and then exporting the final products.
All right, so looking at the spice market now, why are entrepreneurs increasingly focusing on, value chains like, as like spices? For instance, we've seen a lot of attention to ginger, and other high demand crops. Why are you seeing that switch?
The ginger, especially ginger in Nigeria, there is a lot of potential because there's a huge area where we can grow ginger in Nigeria, in northern Nigeria, where it is not utilized right now. And similarly, we can do turmeric also. But with ginger, the potential is right now we are exporting it as dried ginger. But when we do downstream processing, we can export it as a final product where the transportation cost will be much less because we'll be exporting only very little product because when you extract it, you can export the extract, just the extract. When you do the extraction, you are exporting only like maybe 5% of the weight. So there you can save a lot of money on the transportation. And also, when you are supplying these final product to the destination countries, you can get a better price and you can pay a better price to the farmers.
Right, and definitely for a country like Nigeria, we're trying to shift from just exporting, raw products, raw commodities, to actually adding value to them. Talk to me about the difference here that local processing, what difference does it make for the farmers, compared to just exporting, the raw produce? I know you play a lot in that industry.
Yeah. Most of the spices from Africa are being exported as raw materials right now. We are going to change that pattern. When we do the extraction, when we do the final processing there in Africa itself, we can actually contribute to the local economy. We can give a job to the local people, and also we can give a better price and a sustainable market for the people. Like right now in Nigeria, for the past 2 years, the crop was really bad. This year, we are not sure how it is going to be. The harvesting season is going to start in a couple of months, in a few months. So when we have the downstream processing locally in Africa, we can ensure a stable market for the farmers. So they will keep on farming and the production will increase, they get a better price, and the society will improve thereby.
And talking about improving the society, how can smallholder farmers be integrated into larger value chains? And what growth opportunities are you seeing this create?
Yes, we are. So you are talking about the ginger alone, right?
Yes, ginger, especially ginger.
Yes, because when we give a stable market for the farmers, especially in northern Nigeria area, right now our processing facility is in Kaduna. So around that area, when we provide a stable market for the farmers, they tend to farm more products. They tend to produce more, and they tend to get, when we give a better price, they tend to produce more and they get a better income.
So, definitely with the farmers, some of them would definitely need some, training, access to finance and, maybe market access. What type of support are you seeing, right now coming from Nigerian farmers that are most impactful, for the farmers that are engaging today?
We are providing training for the farmers where they can get training for, we are giving training for organic farming and also sustainable good agriculture practices. And also we are providing help for the farmers in obtaining funding for their farming operations, and also for logistical support, storage, and a stable market. So all these things together actually makes the situation, I mean, the farmer's life much better. Especially in Nigeria, a stable market is one of the the best thing that can happen to a farmer. And also we are giving a fair price.
Fair price, that's definitely a very important factor there for the farmers here. But beyond profits, what wider benefits can inclusive, agribusiness models deliver, especially to the rural communities?
When we give a stable market for the farmers, they tend to produce more. So that itself changes their life a lot. And we are also giving scholarship to their children, and also we are giving job to the local people, especially women. If you look at our workforce, almost 80% of the workforce are women. And this is actually benefiting the families directly, and the livelihood of the people, and also the education of the kids, and the entire community is being developed by this.
So how critical are partnerships, with investors? I know you're a big investor, or development finance institutions. What partnerships are you seeing right now that can help to scale, agribusiness in Nigeria?
For example, in our case, with the investment from Avishkar, our funder, we can actually quadruplate our revenue in 3 years. So that's the kind of growth that we are expecting. And right now we are actually serving about 3,000 farmers. So in 3 years we are going to improve that. Increase that to about 10,000. So we are going to create farmer clusters, and this way we can actually reach out to the rural, very faraway places, rural farmers, and then provide funding for their farming, and then buy their product whenever they harvest. So whether the price is up or market is up or down, we'll be there. So that makes a lot of people actually get into agriculture, and also especially farming, ginger cultivation.
All right, let's look at the global spice or commodity markets. Now, what unique advantages do you see, African countries, bringing to the global space at this point?
The agriculture universities in Nigeria, are you talking about?
Yes, especially for African countries like Nigeria. What are you seeing, when it comes to that global spice market? What benefits are we bringing there, in your opinion?
I think there is a huge potential for that, because now Africa is going to be one of the leading factors. Like the countries in Africa, especially Nigeria, Tanzania, and a couple of other countries are going to be the leaders in supplying spices in the world, because of the weather conditions deteriorating in other parts of the world. Africa is going to play a major role. So people, especially students who are coming out of the universities with agriculture expertise, they have a bright future in Africa. And also companies like ours are going to start processing locally, and that creates a lot of job for those kind of expertise and people with expertise.
And what should be the long-term vision, for agribusiness in Africa, both economically and socially? What are you seeing there?
We are actually trying to be one of the leading companies, spice processing and exporting companies in Africa, especially in Nigeria. And also we want to uplift tens of thousands of farmers in rural Nigeria. And also we are planning to bring new crops to Nigeria, especially crops that are actually supplying raw materials for nutraceutical and pharmaceutical industries. These are not cultivated in Africa anywhere at the moment. So we are going to introduce these kind of crops, provided we get help from the government. So we can train the farmers, because we have expertise in other countries, other parts of the world, especially in Asia. We are doing it right now. So we are going to replicate that in Nigeria, and then bring the new crops which are actually servicing the nutraceutical and pharmaceutical industries. We can do up to 10,000 acres. We can go up to 10,000 acres with multiple crops, like, for example, chrysanthemum. It is not grown in Nigeria right now, But the agroclimatic conditions in Nigeria is suitable for that. We have the know-how and technology to do the extraction and then send the final product to the companies, I mean, the end users all around the world, including US, India, and Europe. So these are going to be the future of Nigeria and other African countries.
All right, thank you so much for helping us unpack that global spice market and what Nigeria is doing there. Thank you so much, Benny Francis, co-founder, Horizon Group. It's great having you today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, now we're going to switch over to the commodities market at this point, find out what's playing out there. We're seeing a lot of volatility in the oil market, cocoa, and all of that. Let's bring in Dumebi Oluwole now. She's the manager, economic research, financial derivatives company, joining me right here in the studio. Dumebi, it's great to have you. It's been a while.
Yes,
How have you been?
I've been good. How
How's
about
the
you?
market?
Markets are marketing.
Marketing, you know,
yes,
as usual.
Doing its thing.
Right, and talking about doing its thing, we're seeing oil there.
Yes.
Was weak last week. That's talking about price action. I did think at some point we might lose that $60 level, but it wasn't lost.
Yes.
But we're starting off this week kind of strong. What are you seeing play out there in the oil market?
I mean, both demand and supply dynamics playing out in the oil market. We are seeing that from OPEC, there's an increase in supply. They are planning to increase supply from October. Saudi Arabia is planning to, really take back that market share. Then that also coincides with Russian oil, kind of flooding the market at the moment. And we are seeing somewhat of strong demand as well. The demand side is a bit mixed. There are aspects of demand that are kind of slowing down, and there are aspects that are also rising because we have seen that over the last couple of weeks, China has been stockpiling, and that is giving mixed reactions to the market. So on the first angle, it's more of there's an increase in demand, but there is not an increase in consumption for what is demanded for. So what that means that inventories are building up, and in the coming weeks, demand might slow down. So the markets are actually pricing in all of that dynamics from the supply side and on the demand side, and we are seeing that oil prices are actually trending downward. In terms of the outlook, we do think that oil prices are going to keep slowing, keep declining, and it could fall, to about $60 per barrel towards the end of the year. JP Morgan is actually forecasting lower than that, about $55 per barrel. And what that just tells us is that there are concerns in terms of how Nigeria's revenue would play out, because even though our production is increasing, there are good prospects on there. We've seen Nigeria meet up with its OPEC quota of crude oil about 1.5 million barrels per day, and when you add condensates, that's about 1.7 million barrels per day. That looking at that number, you see that we're doing pretty good, and we could do more, especially to meet up with the 2.06 million barrel per day in the budget. But when you put that oil production mandate coinciding with lower oil prices, there are concerns there in terms of how government revenue would suffice or even be propped up in the next coming weeks.
And definitely that's supposed to be good for fuel prices.
Exactly.
With lower oil prices.
Yes.
But we're seeing that face off here between the Dangote refinery and Nupeng. And definitely they don't want him to have his own trucks, at this point, supplying or distributing his own products, because that kind of takes them out of business.
Yes. I do. So right now, all of that sentiment playing out in domestic market, I think what that does for us is it raises the question of what really is important right now. And I guess coming from a world where we've seen a lot of cyclicality, we've seen a lot of shocks to consumer wallets, right now the goal should be welfare. The goal should be how can we ensure that consumers are actually supported in the best way possible. And right now, when you put the Dangote situation coinciding with the distribution networks that we have and the current situation, you realize that there's a lot more, and I'm going to say this very bold, a lot more politicking going on right now rather than the concerns for consumers. While there is the need to...
Because I keep wondering, who's fighting for the consumer?
Exactly.
At this point, it seems everybody everybody's fighting for their pockets.
Exactly. So while in economic theory there is that concern of the monopolistic tendencies of Dangote, there is that concern. But right now, the truth is we are coming from a world where we've had a lot of state-owned, government-owned refineries. We've had the distribution networks existing long before Dangote came into the scene, and the inefficiencies have been there, the market disruptions have been there, the consumers haven't necessarily felt the relief from all of these systems being in place because of those inefficiencies. So Dangote coming into play right now has not, number one, taken away from the inefficiencies that currently exist within all of those state-owned parastatals and programs and whatever the case may be. What it has done is, if in fact, exposed it even more to see that we can do better, right? We can do better because now he has come into the scene and we see that there's more market efficiency playing out. We're seeing that prices can actually reduce when, you know, the production cost also reduces, and consumers can actually enjoy that. There is the lag, but we're also seeing these market efficiencies to some extent play out. So while there are that risk, I will say this again, it's extremely important that the consumers are well protected, and the focus should be on how best to ensure that within this tight period of reforms and consistent squeeze on consumer wallets and business operations, the focus should be on how to ensure that there's enough supply, that prices become more stable and even begin to steadily decline. And then we can start having those conversations on regulations and ensuring that the monopolistic tendencies or that risk is curbed. But doing that right now, I think it will be more disruptive than productive.
Because I can imagine the average guy on the street right now, seeing all the drama with the face-off between Newbank and Dangote Refinery, and he's wondering, how am I going to be able to buy fuel at a price that I like, that's friendly for my pocket? I'm squeezed on all sides, at this point. I guess, we just hope that all parties can meet up and somehow the consumer is, also looked out for.
Yes, we do hope that.
All right, let's look at the Naira now. We're seeing a gain there, 1,520. Naira market, 0.53% in the official market. I guess it's still good news. Right there, the reserves looking robust.
Good. Yes. So we do expect this trend to continue. There are risks, but I would focus right now on, the current factors driving the Naira stability. Like you rightly mentioned, we're seeing reserves increase, even edging closer on a faster level towards $42 billion. And that has hedged, speculative tendencies that could exist in the market. So the consistent supply-demand dynamics and, the market transparency that we're seeing is consistently, bolstering investor confidence and bolstering market confidence. And we expect that to continue. Supporting the Naira. We're also seeing capital inflows, keep increasing, pretty much FPI, so there is still that concern on the increase in FDIs, but what we are seeing is that in the short term, the Naira stability would be consistent, and that convergence with the parallel market, we expect that to also continue. The risk that I was going to just point out, we're in the end, dirty December is coming up, that increase in importation, in import demand, so that means that forex demand is also going to, keep increasing for businesses to stockpile and prepare, for the dirty December period, and then
so also. Ronnie has called it the dirty. DDD.
Yes, the dirty December. So it has really become a thing. And beyond that, you also look at the diasporans coming in. So there's that increase in demand for forex. There's also this international school fee payment. So September, October is a period where you find a lot more demand for international school fee payments, and that also is going to definitely have some pressure on the market. But we still expect the Naira to continually trade at the band is currently trading at.
And parents are working on back-to-school expenses right now, and still trying to make way in the domestic market. What are you seeing with cocoa futures? That's down about 2.69%. What's driving sentiment there?
I mean, increased production, increased supply from West Africa producers. Between Ivory Coast, Ghana, Nigeria, Cameroon, those four markets account for over 70% of global cocoa supply. And right now, with the rains that we're seeing, which are favorable for output, we're also seeing that So pretty much cocoa output is increasing from West African markets. Ivory Coast as well on a year-on-year basis between September this year and September last year. We've seen almost a 6%, approximately 6% increase, in cocoa supply. So we do expect that trend to continue, and of course that's going to keep impacting cocoa prices, meaning that cocoa prices are going to come down consistently. And then you also consider that the markets right now in terms of demand is not necessarily as strong as it was some months back. So that means that we're seeing increased supply meeting lower demand, and that will continually put downward pressure on prices. And if that continues, what that means for Nigeria's export earnings is that it could decline, even though output is increasing. And that's somewhat like the parallel between the oil production and then lower oil prices, and also the same thing impacting here. So that's when you juxtapose both of them together, you see that there's some more pressure on Nigeria's revenue in the coming weeks or coming months.
Well, hopefully we don't have too much pressure.
Of course,
at this point. Thank you so much, Dumebi Oluwole, Manager, Economic Research, Financial Derivatives Company.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
All right, let's get a quick check on what's playing out in the global economy now. So the U.S. government may be forced to refund as much as $1 trillion if Supreme Court rules that President Donald Trump's reciprocal tariffs are illegal. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, in a declaration to the court, warned that the unwinding the tariffs could disrupt markets and fiscal planning. Meanwhile, U.S. Customs have collected more than $75 billion since Trump's Liberation Day announcement, with additional billions expected by next June. While tariff refunds are not unprecedented, experts note that the sheer scale of this case would be without parallel in the U.S. history there. So moving on to India now, they've called on BRICS partners to help reduce its widening trade deficits, even as the bloc pushed back against U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs. External Affairs Minister in India says the biggest trade gaps are with BRICS members. China and Brazil criticized Washington's trade policies, warning they threaten global stability. President Xi Jinping cautioned against protectionism, while Brazil accused the U.S. of blackmail over tariffs as high as 50%. Despite tensions, Trump praised Prime Minister Modi and called India a special partner. Modi responded positively, signaling both sides may seek compromise despite ongoing disputes. And Chinese EV maker XPeng will roll out its low-cost motor brand overseas next year, starting in Europe. The move is set to intensify competition with Tesla, BYD, and traditional car makers like Volkswagen and BMW. The Mona MO3 coupe, priced under $17,000, debuted in China last year, and the XPeng CEO says more models will follow in 2026 as the company pushes to expand globally and considers acquisitions. XPeng now operates in 60 markets, up from just a handful in 2020, and is betting its budget EVs will fuel rapid growth worldwide. And mining company Anglo American is making one of the biggest mining moves in more than a decade. The company has agreed to buy Canada's Teck Resources in a deal that will create a mining giant worth over $50 billion. Anglo shareholders will own about 62% of the new company, while Teck investors take just under 38%. The deal values Teck at a 17% premium, but Anglo is also offering its investors about $4.5 billion special dividend, framing the takeover as a zero premium merger. And French AI firm Mistral has been valued at nearly $14 billion after a 1.7 billion euro funding round led by Dutch chip giant ASML, which invested 1.3 billion euros for an 11% stake. NVIDIA and other top investors also took part in that. The deal more than doubles Mistral's worth from last year and cements ASML as one of its biggest shareholders, reflecting the flood of cash into artificial intelligence. Mistral is seen as Europe's main rival to OpenAI, building advanced language models, though OpenAI's $500 billion valuation still towers over it at this point. All right, so definitely the markets are open right here in Lagos, Nigeria. Seeing some Positive movement starting off, but not convincing enough, and we'll see how that plays out. We'll take a moment now. All right, yes, as I did say now, taking a peek now into what's playing out in investing.com. So we're seeing 0.14% advance right now. That's live trading right there on the NGX. And we're seeing some of the top trades right now. We're seeing most of the components there coming from the insurance sector. We're seeing attention also for the top heavyweights, the blue chip stocks right there, Burger Paint, Beta Glass. Those ones are getting a lot of attention right now. ICO Insurance is also getting attention, up about 6.53%. That's looking at investing.com right now. So the trades are on. Hope you have direction of what you're going to plan that next trade right there. But we'll catch you again on Business Incorporated to give you, bring you up to speed on what's playing out with the markets that we track in the global scene and right here in Nigeria. Thanks for watching. I'm Ladi Williams from me and the team right here at Channels HQ. It's bye for now.